Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, December 28th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Liberty Bowl game day has arrived for Kansas a mere 14 years after the Jayhawks' previous bowl experience. Of course, KU is taking on Arkansas in the AutoZone LIberty Bowl. On today's show, KU beat writer Sheryas Laddha and I discuss the game and the unusual bowl experience for the teams and fans caused by the frigid weather. We also discuss the topics that often surround a bowl game these days, like the opt-outs and the transfer portal. After a break, you'll hear from head coaches Lance Leipold from Kansas and Arkansas's Sam Pittman. Okay, let's get started. Sheryas is with us, and he's in a bowl game, which means warm temperatures, palm trees, nice soft breezes, probably walk on the beach. It's all of that and more, isn't it, Sheryas?
I wish there was nothing more than I was hoping for a warmer temperature. But I mean, to be honest with you, the 32 degrees in Memphis, Tennessee is probably bliss compared to the -5 that was experienced in Lawrence, Kansas. So I've been happy about that. I can't lie. I never thought I'd be happy about single-digit temperatures, but it's been great. It's been an interesting experience. Lots been going on, and I can't believe we're roughly 24 hours removed from the bowl game.
Yeah, how about that? Kansas playing Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl, fantastic. A season that really nobody outside of the Kansas locker room could have seen coming. It's two teams with 6-6 records. But maybe a different feeling on each side about this game. We'll get into that in a minute. Before we do talk about the game, I did want to talk about the circumstances of Memphis and the problems that the city experienced on Christmas. I think a lot of it happened on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and how that's affecting maybe the bowl scene there. We were hearing about hotels not being able to take customers and messages to fans. Just bring us up to date. We're recording this about 24 hours before the 4:30 p.m. kickoff, but on Wednesday. So just give us the latest on what's the situation going to be for the fans. And the bowl game itself had to put out a statement that they were going to continue. The game was going on. That's how, that's how, that's where it stands.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been an interesting situation. I arrived on Christmas, and I'm very happy I did looking back on it, because my hotel is not letting any guests come back in. Like, they are telling us to have our own water for brushing and for consumption. A lot of hotels, I did a story on this yesterday, a lot of hotels have just stopped letting in guests. One of the hotels, like the Holiday Inn, was like, yeah, we're letting guests in, but we don't have heat or, running water. And I'm like, how are you supposed to have guests stay if you don't have those two things? And there's been a couple, like the DoubleTree that I'm at right now, where they've been hosting a lot of media stuff. They've been taking in people, but they've kind of told them, hey, if you guys come in and you have issues, the liability is not on us. The liability is on you, and we're telling you guys to bring in water and stuff like that. A lot of places have just been giving bottled water, like at restaurants and stuff like that. I know a lot of fans have complained about their hotel reservations, like canceling when they show up, which has been unfortunate. And a lot of places are just unable to kind of process the amount of people that are coming up for the bowl game from Kansas and Arkansas. So it's led to an interesting situation where, like, people are worried if there's even running water in the stadium. I don't know how that's going to be affected per se, but it seems to be good from what I've read. Stadium-wise, it's just been based on the fact that they need water bottles for everything right now. And a lot of places are kind of just, there's a boil advisory that they put out. So basically, customers of the Memphis Light Gas Water Company, which is most of this area of downtown Memphis, have been told not to drink water unless they've boiled it for 3 minutes. And everything non-essential water-wise has been told to cut down, like, limit washing your clothes, limit doing your dishes. So it's definitely put a different feel around a bowl game that I think a lot of people were super excited about.
Yeah, you deserve some palm trees here. This is not the usual bowl experience for anybody, for fans, media, teams, for
Hmm.
sure. I remember my first bowl game covering Kansas was in Honolulu, so
Oh,
um,
wow.
yeah, that one was a nice bowl experience. In fact, because the Kansas
Hmm.
basketball team was also playing out there a week later, it was a 2 week excursion
Oh, wow. That's
to
nice.
Honolulu.
That's
That was
nice.
yes. So my experience just a little bit different. So uh, listen, I heard that the expected attendance was supposed to be around 40 to 45,000. We'll see what
Hmm.
happens, on game day, if that many people are there or show up, or just what the fan limitation might end up being. But let's go back to the idea of wanting to be there and excited to be there. Kansas absolutely as excited as any team could be going to a bowl game, having not been to one for 14 years, and playing their way into bowl eligibility. Now the Jayhawks didn't win many games down the stretch, right? They lost 6 of 7. That one win, the win over Oklahoma State, got them bowl eligible, and here the Jayhawks are. Arkansas, on the other hand, got had a nice start to the season, got to number 10 in the polls,
Hmm.
and then played its way out of the polls.
Yeah.
Had a nice win over
Yeah.
Ole Miss at the end of the year, but
Hmm.
then lost to Missouri in the final game of the regular season. So is there I know it's first bowl game you covered, but do you get a sense of that one team really wants to be there and the other one maybe just a little disappointed with its season?
I think it's interesting because obviously you get the feel from the Kansas team. There's a feel that a lot of them expect to win this game. There's a story I wrote when I came in is like, this is step one for Kansas's great plans they have in store for the next couple of years. They want to win the Big 12 championship. They want to be in the college football playoffs. This is just step one. They've come in excited, but I think they're very kind of like, when they walked in, they're very serious. They're kind of stern with their face. It was an interesting kind of dynamic. They weren't looking around. I didn't expect it for a team that hasn't been at a bowl game in 14 years. I didn't expect to kind of see something like that. On the other hand, talking to some Arkansas players, I think a lot of them see this bowl as a chance to kind of salvage a season that's been a tough ride. They've had a lot of injuries. They've kind of dealt with a lot of things that have gone on with the team. They had 23 guys enter the transfer portal reportedly, a couple of guys sitting out for the NFL. This is a chance for a lot of the players who don't play a lot to get playing time to showcase how good they are. The spirits of the team, I think, have kind of heightened. Coach Pittman talked about it today when somebody asked, "Do you think Kansas is motivated?" He got serious real quick, and he's been, kind of joking all the time. He was like, I mean, I think we're plenty motivated. Kansas is an exciting team. Like, I get why they're excited. I'm excited and happy for that. But I think, both teams can be excited. And I think he's right. Both teams can be excited. Obviously, from the outside looking in, I think Kansas is a little more motivated. There's a lot of talk of them playing an SEC opponent. I've got a lot of different players telling me, oh, yeah, the SEC, it just means more. I love playing a conference like that and stuff like that. So I think there's an internal, like, Kansas wants to prove that they belong on the national stage versus Arkansas is using this as kind of a salvation point for their season that's kind of been up and down.
The other thing I think about when I consider Arkansas is they have at one point they led the NCAA in players in the transfer portal, and
Yeah, yeah.
they have a ton, and they also have others who are sitting out the game as a lot of NFL draft hopefuls do,
Hmm.
sit out the game to not to get injured. So Arkansas, many more of those players than Kansas does. But from this aspect, at least what you've got in Arkansas are players who, at least a lot who are going to play really want to play because it's their first big opportunity. So I think
Hmm.
from that does favor the Razorbacks, and it'll test their depth, of course. Arkansas is a program I think
Absolutely.
that should have good depth,
Hmm.
and so. But let's talk about the aspect of the transfer portal and players who won't be there. We'll start with Arkansas. The quarterback is playing, right? KJ Jefferson, a really nice quarterback, dual threat guy, 22 touchdown passes, 7 rushing
Hmm.
touchdowns. he's a darn fine player. What how is Kansas going to defend him? What is Lance Leipold and players saying about KJ Jefferson?
I think this Kansas team expects, kind of Arkansas to run it down their throats between KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders. I think they've combined for the running back, they've combined for almost 2,000 yards on the ground. I think like 17, 18 touchdowns together. So obviously Kansas kind of knows that, primary option number one is probably going to be the run. So at least they know that going in. I think this Kansas team knows that, they're a big, aggressive, team on both sides of the ball. In the trenches, they have a lot of big guys who are very athletic. And I think in some ways you would probably say, they're on the upper tier of the Big 12 conference in the trenches on physicality level compared to any other team. I wouldn't say there's a Big 12 team that is comparable. Maybe you could say like TCU or something like that. But this Arkansas team has done a really, really good job on both sides of the ball, just winning those battles in line of scrimmage. And Kansas thinks that's the selling point. It's what Brian Borland, the defensive coordinator, said yesterday is like, in the games that we've played well, we've won the line of scrimmage battle. And I think it's going to ultimately come down to that because Arkansas's defense has caused 39 sacks this year. Kansas's offensive line has only given up 9 sacks. So it's kind of test against test,
Right.
39 sacks leads the SEC. You're looking at a Kansas offensive line that isn't small. And it's a really interesting just battle because even with all the absences, like you said, all the depth for Arkansas is being tested, but also inverse, how is Kansas supposed to prepare for a team that doesn't have college tape as much as they did a month ago?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think it's a really key. I think it's going to be a really key, line of scrimmage game. It's going to be overall come down to that, and I think it might just come down to limiting mistakes. And I think KJ Jefferson and that team have done a really good job of that. And if Kansas can kind of force them into some turnovers, I think it'll favor Kansas in the long run.
What about the Jayhawks and who they will be missing in this game? I know there's a maybe or two on this list, but definitely not playing are some frontline guys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So honestly, transfer portal wise, I'd say most of the guys that they're Gavin Potter was probably the best guy in that list. Yeah. That entered the transfer portal, but he left the team in October. So the biggest issue the Jayhawks have is Kenny Logan Jr., their star safety, came in on a boot on his left leg. But I was told that he was practicing yesterday, and the defensive coordinator Brian Borland said he looks like he's good to play. So that's a big thing for the Jayhawks. Unfortunately, Daniel Highshaw Jr., the running back, who was one of the most explosive and kind of make your man miss ability on that entire team, it doesn't appear to look like he's going to play. He's been out since I think week 5 of the year with a hip injury. And I know last week the team had said he gotten back to team activities, but he still hasn't even started practicing yet. So it doesn't appear he's coming back for that game. And Leipold kind of came back to it and said it's highly unlikely that Daniel plays.
Okay. All right. So Arkansas is, the last I saw, a 2.5-point favorite, and the over under 68.5. So high scoring game expected.
Yes.
Is that what you expect? Do you think this will be a high scoring game? And what's the weather going to be tomorrow?
So I believe the weather is 50 degrees. Okay. So it is kind of nice and sunny in compared to what it has been the last couple of days. I expect it to be high scoring. I think 68 is a lot, to be honest with you. Just because every expectation for high scoring game, it feels like it never quite turns out to be as high scoring as everyone thinks it's going to be. But I still think it's going to be a game that could be something like, maybe it's 35-28 or high 20s, low 30s, something like that. But I expect this game to kind of be a shootout almost, and I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of just explodes. The first quarter, the teams are kind of figuring itself out. They're scoreless. And then they kind of find the rhythm. It just explodes from there.
Yeah, when Kansas was forming its identity this year, it was on the offensive side. The early games, not so much Tennessee Tech, but when they went to West Virginia and then played Duke, Houston, a lot of just the points were flying from KU. It's almost as if opponents didn't expect or weren't prepared, and Kansas was just running up the points on 40s, over 50 against West Virginia, and even when they played TCU, as it turns out to be a terrific team in midseason, Kansas. It ended up being KU's first loss. I think they hung 31 on them. So, and that's when Jalen Daniels went out, didn't play the second half. So, I think Kansas entirely capable of scoring some points in this game. Arkansas not so. Doesn't have that kind of offensive explosion, but good defensively. I'm kind of with you. I see maybe the under coming through in this game, and that might be the better bet. I just don't have any sense of who wins this game. I don't. I think Kansas is certainly capable of winning. I think Arkansas might have better personnel, but I don't know. I might stay away from that end of the bet and maybe play a little bit of the under. So. Hey, one thing I'd forgotten. I found this interesting. Sam Pittman, the Arkansas coach, spent a year at KU. He was the Jayhawks offensive line coach in 2001. In fact, we're gonna hear from him after we take a break, and he'll talk a little bit about that experience. He was on the staff for 1 year. Actually, didn't even complete a full year. Terry Allen, it was the final year of Terry Allen's regime, and he got fired with 3 games left in the season. So, and he had come to KU from spending a season at Missouri. So. He certainly knows our area, and he's a Pittsburgh State grad as well. So I enjoyed listening to his press conferences this week. All right, Sheryas, enjoyed the conversation, and I'm glad you're going to get a little bit more warmer weather in Memphis.
Yes.
Enjoy the game, and we'll see you when you get back to Kansas City.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There is Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening. Let's hear from the bowl coaches. KU's Lance Leipold will be up first, and then Arkansas's Sam Pittman. The interviews have been recorded from press conferences in Memphis, so it's not always easy to hear the questions. I apologize for that. You'll hear the coaches compliment each other's program, as coaches do at bowl games. And especially interesting from Pittman are the thoughts about his year as a Kansas assistant. That's right, Pittman coached the Jayhawks offensive line in 2001, Terry Allen's final year. Okay, let's get started with Lance Leipold.
How important was the fact that you and your staff have experience doing this, and some of your transfer guys have been to bowl games?
Extremely. I think, I don't say it now, I may forget, the job Michael Painter, our director of football operations, and his efforts in putting together a trip, and all the other people on support staff and our administration to make things happen, to make this a good experience for the guys. And I think we can, go back to some of those past trips and how to do it. I know Sam and his staff and their programs have, more recent templates for this, but I'm happy with where we're at, and hopefully that shows in how they go out and play.
Very complimentary job.
I paid him to say that. No, it's very nice of him. Yeah, first of all, I'd just say is that, in this profession, we, really the first time I ever talked with Coach was at the press conference, earlier this month. But as we talk, and we know he had a short stay at, was at KU at one time under Terry Allen, who I know. And I've always heard great things about him. Not, excellent football coach, but better person. And that really resonated pretty quickly. The job that he's done in his short time at Arkansas and some of the things that they burst on the scene a year ago, and many things that you try to emulate within our situation, and formula playing good, solid football, be physical on both sides of the ball and the lines, and be able to run the football and control it and make things happen. So he's got an excellent quarterback, and I know he's kind of gone through some transition staff-wise, but when you put together a great group of guys, it's hard to always keep them, and I know he's got many others there, and I have the utmost respect for him and his program.
Coach, I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name on the first telephone.
That's okay. As long as there's not profanity before or after, I usually am pretty good with it, okay?
One of what it's like preparing for when you look at the depth chart, they're not the guys who had taken in the year. The receiver, linebacker, another spot for them. What's that?
Yeah, I had him go back, and it can be a little different, and equally on defense when somebody else is going to call the game, because there'll be a different rhythm and situation. So there's going to be probably some new wrinkles put in. But, when we really went back, I had somebody in the staff, probably Andy or something. I had like the last 3 game depth charts and stuff. You mentioned receiver. But all in all, even though I know there's been some changes in the roster, it's pretty solid yet in the starting lineup. I think maybe rotationally. But again, you've got, when you're playing a program like in Arkansas from the SEC, be able to recruit at a high level, there's talented guys waiting for their opportunity. And it's not like a 1 week situation. It's been multiple weeks, and the guys are going to get a lot of reps. And I'm sure they're anxious to show that some of those, maybe snaps or targets were, maybe could have come sooner. So there'd be motivation, and we know there's going to be talent. So a little different, but again, I think probably both sides of the ball, and for both teams, early part of the game is kind of a, kind of get a feel for what's going to happen. But again, I know they're very talented.
Given the way Jalen's season's laid out, how good has this extra time been for him, whether you call it rest or whatever he's done in the last month?
It's for him as much as, there's a lot of guys, that have benefited from this. Of course, him missing most of the middle part of the season, give him some rest, come back. He's anxious to play and maximize that. You look at the practices and time that he missed and the amount of practices we've regained. You get about 3 weeks of work back in if a guy's missed time. I think there's some other guys that were kind of banged up late in the year that are moving around a lot better. And so hopefully, again, I keep saying hopefully that shows itself tomorrow. Yes, sir.
Barry Oates obviously not the coordinator now, like the shirt going. What do you expect from Arkansas defense out there? And obviously, they have a lot of time to prepare.
Yeah, they've had time. I guess, there's, as I always say to assistants sometimes, if you're not the guy sitting next to the guy, you're the guy 2 chairs away. Well, now you get a chance to move into the chair. And I think any fine assistant coach, and I know he has a staff full of them, as you prepare and you're working for game plans, there's probably, coordinators have a lot of responsibilities, but during the week, there's a lot of dialogue and thought process and going through your roster and what you can do well. And there's always people giving input. And, whether there's small tweaks, if I was the guy calling it, we'd be doing this a little bit more in this situation. I'm sure we're going to see that, but there's only so much time that you can fully flip it and make it look totally different. So we would expect it to be somewhat similar. They can mix it up a lot to begin with anyway. So, that's a unique challenge, but, I'm sure they're going to be ready to play hard. And, Barry Odom's one heck of a football coach. And I'm sure within that room and within that unit, they're going to want to play well with or without him. And I congratulate him for the opportunity to become a head coach again, because they're not easy to get.
people look at bowl matchups. A lot of times they say, which team wants to be there? And I think Kansas, in this situation, feel really wants to be in this game. I wonder if that's an edge for you guys or how you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard the same thing as well. I know our guys want to be here, and I know our guys want an opportunity to play, especially our upperclassmen and guys who've been through a lot. A lot of them had 3 head coaches and 5 to 8 position coaches and crazy stuff that no young man ever thought he signed up for when he went to college. So I know they're going to be excited to play, but at the same time, I wouldn't underestimate Coach Pittman's use of motivation and finding ways to get his team. And I know they'll be more ready to play as well. I just want to make sure that we play with great enthusiasm and finish this year out right.
But I understand Kansas. Listen, Kansas is going to be ready because they got a great football coach. I like Coach Leipold's a freaking great football coach. He is. They're excited. They're going to be ready. But hell, two teams can be excited, and I know we are. And so I know they will be. And shoot, they should be. 2008. That's kind of like last year with us. It'd been a minute since we'd been out there. But I can promise you, we'll be ready to play. Well, I think, first of all, he understands how to recruit to his system, what he wants to get done. To do what he's done at Kansas, and Kansas has had some good football teams as well. They have Coach Mangino when he was there, man, they were rolling. But it's been a minute, and for him to come in and do what he's done at all, I have so much high respect for him because he's done it at every level, sort of like a Jerry Kill. Jerry Kill, did it at this level, that level, this level. That's what he's done as well. And so obviously what he has as far as his coaching staff and his expectations for his program and things of that nature are outstanding. You could take a lot of coaches, and you name the school, and you name 4 or 5 schools up here, and they can have success because of the name of the school. Now, they may not be able to win a national championship, but they're going to have success. Going into Kansas and having success, that takes a ball coach. And I just admire him. I admire him as a man. And I'm looking forward to going out there and competing. But the bottom line is that Kansas is in good hands with him, and hopefully they can keep him for a long time, because I think the program, obviously, in some of the teams that they've beaten this year, last year, I think it's shown exactly what kind of football coach and staff and his players, his team that they have. They're very fortunate to have him. Yes, it is fun. Kansas is doing some really neat things offensively, defensively as well, but offensively, they got a few plays that we may try to steal. We're looking at it and running that option off the back end of their zone plays and their stretch plays. That's a really cool concept. Your linebackers can't fly with the first guy, because if they do, that tackle's going to pin him and we're in trouble. So there are some really neat things that they're doing off the back end of their read concepts. Loved it. Short. Terry Allen was the coach. We'd gotten fired at Missouri, and I was down getting some chew at the gas station and for my wife, and she's got to quit at some point, but then I got a call from Terry. And he said, "Come on over," and I went over there and interviewed with him, and I'd never had a 2-year contract. I asked for one, and he gave it to me. It was a shock, and he gave it to me, and he told me the money, and I asked for more. Now that's how dumb I am. I didn't have a job, so I shouldn't have done any of those things, and he gave it to me, and we really like Lawrence. They got a beautiful campus. and we were there. And as soon as we got bowling eligible, we got whacked. I mean, like tick, tick, 1-0, boom, whacked. And I think we played our last 3 games, maybe. But Kansas was very good to me. Roy Williams was the head basketball coach there, and I love him. And I had a relationship with him. Him and Coach Allen were very close. And being close to home, one of my parents could come see us play and things of that nature was a big deal. And that's what I remember about that. But that was one very short year there as we got let go, and we didn't win enough games.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to George Howard for putting together the show, and a shout out to our SportsBeat KC production team of Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Sheryas Laddha for sharing his insights on Kansas football. Read Sheryas' stories from the Liberty Bowl and everything else in sports at the Morning Sports Edition, or I should say in the Morning Sports Edition. It's the best digital sports page in America. Go to liveedition.kansascity.com, see what I'm talking about. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.